Welcome everyone to our new series, Break Free. So we are going to take a break from the editing related webinars that we have been having in the past 6 months. And we have ICF member Shailaja from Hyderabad who is starting this series today. She is a avid traveler and I hope you will enjoy the series as much as we have in trying to present it to you and doing the preparations. So over to you, Shalja.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you very much. And once again, welcome. I welcome you all. Thank you for joining this session and happy to be kickstarting this session. So this is, like Vivek said, break free. This is series, and here my session is about celebrating travel because I do like to travel a lot. In this session, I thought I wanted to do a very focused presentation where I wanted to focus on some far-flung and maybe some rural areas in India because those places have like been some kind of eye-opener and they have also, inspired me in some ways, although I cannot really emulate what everyone does there, but in many ways it has inspired me to make some small changes in my own life. So I thought I share these experiences, and it was worth kick starting the series with this kind of session. So just give me a moment. I'm having trouble with moving ahead with the screen. Sorry about that. Yeah. So, uh, okay. So, welcome on board. And before we move ahead with the section, I wanted to, acknowledge a few people here. First is my friend Akanksha Dureja, who is a guest in this series. She's not a member of ICF, but we invited her because I got to borrow some of her pictures. This is the first picture that she was happy to share with me and then with all of you. So thank you, Akanksha. I think you are in this session, so thank you very much. And second, Akanksha, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Uh,
I'm
yeah,
looking
well,
forward to the session.
yeah, thank you. Welcome. And I wanted to also acknowledge the ICF team members like Murugraj, Vivek, and others. I mean, not really know who all is involved here, but really a thank you to all of you to making this these kind of webinars a success. We get to learn a lot from this, and definitely, I wanted to acknowledge the fact that ICF is like a bridge to all of us, a forum which is like a bridge to all of us, which connects each and every one of us. We may not have met professionally or even personally, but thanks to Vivek and his initiative in, forming a group like this, a forum like this, could I please request everyone to please be on mute unless you're speaking? Thank you. It's kind of a bridge which connects all of us, and I really wanted to thank Vivek here for taking an initiative to start a forum like this. So when I was preparing this presentation for this session, coincidentally, my first destination was a place which had this huge long bridge. It is called the Pambat Bridge, which is in near Rameshwaram. Now, Rameshwaram is a place which inspires a lot of travelers who are very religious, and because there's a lot of religious significance to it. And if you know a bit of Ramayana, you will know why Rameshwaram and all, because supposedly this is from where Lord Rama took over, and he launched a huge army, and he went to fight Ravana the demon. So but a lot of people visited for like religious purpose, but what I found here was something very awe-inspiring and definitely breathtakingly beautiful and even drool-worthy. No matter in how many ways you try to describe this structure, it's only a very feeble attempt, so I'll stop here. This view is from, like I said, Pamban Bridge in near Rameshwaram, where you get to see nature's marvel and an engineering marvel coming together. Nature being the Indian Ocean, the vast Indian Ocean here, and this Pamban Bridge, which is an engineering marvel. And this picture was taken while standing on a footbridge, which overlooks a parallel railway bridge, which is in the photograph. So, which means if you're traveling to the next town by bus or a train, you're actually traveling on the Indian Ocean. So the next picture is what depicts that traveling on a train and on an Indian Ocean. So for like a good few kilometers, you are actually with the ocean and you get to see that you really feel very exhilarated and your heart only that keeps doing its own somersaults and everything. So this is Pamban Bridge. Now I want you to take you all to another bridge again, a nature's marvel. This is I hope you all are able to see the slides coming up. If there is a lag or something, please stop me. I'll take a pause and then continue. So this is on the left-hand side, what you see is a living root bridge in Meghalaya. This is close to Cherrapunji, where, until some years ago, it held a record for having the highest water or rainfall. So this is a living root bridge, and the claim to fame here is, it's a natural wonder. This is not a bridge which is constructed. The roots are trained to grow themselves into sturdy, sustainable structures, and this is with the help of the locals who have like kind of devised this art to train the bridges, to train the roots and allowing them to grow into bridges. So and nature definitely is respected and worshipped here because the locals understand that this is a lifeline. So this is another marvel, which is a living root bridge. On the right hand side, what you see is the border, this you'll have to travel further up from Cherrapunji to a place called Dauki, which is also a BSF post. It is here that India shares its borders with Bangladesh. Now, whenever we talk about borders and fences and all, it doesn't, bring up any friendly emotions and all. But here it was a big surprise because those BSF forces, both from definitely the Indian forces and the armed forces on the other side, you can see even the Bangladeshi forces, they all come up to you as close as they can and they have a nice chit chat with you. They even offer you a cup of tea and everything. So that is really an eye opener, and I at least I was like very speechless when I was interacting with them. All I could say was like, all I could say was yes, no, and I was really, tongue tied, and it was really an emotional experience. And when you see this one of the pictures on the right hand side, that is the border. If somebody had not put up that board saying "Welcome to Bangladesh," we would have really thought of it as some railway crossing or some kind of uh, place where you a toll gate or something like that, but it's actually a border and it's as simple as that. It can really be as simple as that. uh, our next destination is Ladakh, where again sustainability is very high in you know the dictionary of the locals. It is one of the I will say dreamiest places on earth, with mountains, valleys, river streams, motorable roads, passes. In fact, one of the highest motorable passes, Khardungla, is in this region. Uh, so our homestay, we were in a homestay, and our homestay host, in fact, compares his place to Switzerland and calls both these places as heaven on earth. But what took my breath away was their lifestyle and living philosophy, which breathes sustainability in with the word go. The locals are in close commune with nature, they practice sustainability, and they are never poor. Our host, Namgyal, he is a teacher, and he had a very interesting story to share. Every Ladakhi will have a stock of food and grains for at least a few months. A rich family will have probably for at least 9 months. And the poorest family will have a stock of grains and all that they need for their livelihood. They have a stock for at least 3 months. This is the poorest of poor. And he has a friend who lives in Europe and who owns a massive house, has his own chopper and everything, helipad and all that. But even that gentleman cannot boast of uh, food grains and stock that will last even for a month. So that is something really very inspiring. And if we had attended a session couple of weeks back where we were talking about freelancers, their journey, and their challenges during this time, Malavika was sharing. An insight where she said that as freelancers or otherwise also, we all should have a financial backup of at least 7 to 8 months. Well, we are beginning to practice all this, but Ladakhis, they have been practicing this for years together. Now, this picture on the left is of a cozy room, and on the right is a lively and a well-stocked kitchen. If you notice, there are like about 8 to 10 thermos flasks in one corner, and all of them looking very colorful. The kitchen is a very, very lively place and a very welcoming place. So I can never get enough of these places, and Ladakh in particular. I'm moving on to the next destination, which is Bidar. And this is also a place where I found that ancient wisdom was still, being revived, and it's still being ruled. The picture on the left, it looks like a tunnel, an underground tunnel, or even an escape route during the medieval times where people will try to escape from enemies and all. But it's not that. It looks like that, but it's not that. It's an underground water system that was being revived. The design and the architecture dates back to like medieval times. It's a technology that originated in Persia actually, and it was designed as a step well, but it is not just a step well. It is also meant to serve as a water distribution network and also a reservoir to harvest water. These are called Surang Babis, and they also boast of an inbuilt water filter system because of the porous nature of the laterite soil. This is the underground tunnel, and on the top there is this laterite soil, and that because of this nature, the porous nature of that soil, it acts as a water filtering system also. So you know it's all shaped in such a way that it allows for that technology to function. And this whole thing was carried out way back during the medieval times, and a local NGO is tried to revive this whole system. Bidar is a drought prone area, so after this thing was revived, uh, you know people didn't have to complain of drought anymore. This picture was taken like about 5-6 years back, I think to 2016, and since then, the situation is not so bad at all. Uh, uh, the next destination for me is Pushkar. This is in contrast to what I've been talking about so far, a little in contrast, but I found a confluence of culture here. On the left hand side, what you see is a beautiful sunset on the Ghats. The Ghats are a very beautiful place in Pushkar, and Pushkar is known for the camel fair and all that. But when I went there, I really was surprised, very pleasantly surprised with the cultural aspect too. The ghat where we all sit down to watch sunset and everything, that ghat is also a very lively place where people just come over and they start to dance, they indulge in a lot of revelry, and everyone picks up the beats and they all start dancing. Somebody is playing music, and everyone starts dancing to those beats and everything. And there are the lady that you see on the right, she's actually a foreigner. And if my memory serves me right, she's an Italian. There are a lot of these people from Europe and who are settled here, who have made Pushkar their home. In fact, they all take to arts and cultures. Like the lady here is a classical Kathak dancer, and she's a trained Kathak dancer, and she even takes classes, and she trains other students too. And when we were like one day when we were walking around in the market area, we found a very tall, well-built, sadhu, who was greeting us because he knew our host. We were a group of travelers, and we were led by one person, and he knew the Pushkar landscape very well. So he was greeting, and he was not greeting with any hi, hello, good morning, or anything. All he said was Ram Ram. He's uh, he's also actually a foreigner, and he's an Italian originally. But for the last 30 years, I believe he has made India, and Pushkar is his home. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture of him, but you all will have to imagine, a tall, dark, sorry, a tall, broad, well-built stranger from a foreign land who is like now, dressed as a sadhu. He was attired in Indian clothes and everything, a dhoti, a turban, everything. And he would go about speaking very fluently in the local language and greeting everyone with Ram Ram. So Pushkar for me is a confluence of culture and a very beautiful place to be in. The next destination is further down in Rajasthan, a small, far-flung village in the district of Barmer. Now, this picture will hardly, uh, inspire anything. That's all you see is some kind of a weed and some plants growing, but there's a lot more to this picture than that. This is a story of a farmer and called Punwaram, who belongs to this district in Rajasthan. And with the help of a few support groups, NGOs, he's able to transform his arid, almost barren land into a profitable cultivation. He now grows bear the fruit, jeera, and other fruits such as pomegranate and even papaya and all that. He calls this whole thing where he's able to, convert his whole land into a very fertile area. After all, it's a desert, right? So it was an awakening for this person, and that awakening led him to become more open to more possibilities, and in due course he set up a I will say small industry in the premises of his home, where, hold your breath, he manufactures sanitary pads. Now, this may sound like straight out of the movie Padman, but he teamed up with his wife and to educate and mobilize the women folk and who are now part of this small team. And he has like very small, very small system that manifests, manufacturing unit which manufacture sanitary pads and all. But it was very humbling to see somebody who has transformed himself so much, and that too in a place like Rajasthan, where people are still a little conservative. They don't want to venture out into something like this. Now, he even, he really manufactures them on a large scale, and he even supplies it to, you know, uh, the girls' hostel and all. He actually went to speak to the warden of the hostel and convince her to, order, sanitary pads for the girls and the young women there. So now he does all that. So a farmer who has like come such a long way, and that was truly inspiring for all of us who visited this place. I'm almost at the end of my session, but I wanted to talk about this person, this old frail man who is like a potter in a small village called Nittur in Karnataka. And he takes, as you can see from the picture itself, he takes so much pride in his work, and even when we were like all crowded around him, he was like engrossed in his work. In fact, his ancestors served the entire village, making them pots and pans for every household, for their kitchens and everything. And he's so engrossed, you will take him to be a very serious person, but actually, no, he's a very sweet person too. And when he's not engrossed in his work, this is how he looks. He may look very poor, frail, and all that, but his look at his eyes, it shines with so much happiness. And whenever I try to picture contentment, this is the image that comes to my mind. And I wanted to leave you all with this picture with a happy thought and some good cheer and a smile here. So, this was a brief, short, snappy presentation on my travel experiences to all these far flung and rural areas. So, if you have anything to share as well, or if you have any questions, we'll be happy to take that for next 10-15 minutes, maybe. Yeah.
Thanks, Shalja, for a beautiful presentation.
Thanks, Vivek. Thanks for the
And
opportunity.
one of our participants, she actually found the image of the sadhu, which you
Oh,
mentioned.
okay, okay.
So she will maybe send you on WhatsApp. And
Yeah, please do that. Yeah.
today only, like I was reading an interview of Amir Khan in the newspaper, and he said like he was addressing university students, and he said maybe everyone should take 1 year off and travel all across the country, because travel teaches you so much which no education can actually teach you. It's the real life experiences that you have when you meet people that's going to matter in life. So that was the thought behind starting this series. And Akanksha, would you like to say something, because some of the pictures that Selja has used, you shot them.
Sure, thank you. And it was, as in, those pictures are from Meghalaya, which was, I think, 3 years ago at least. And now we are all stuck in our homes, and it seems like that was a different world altogether. And I really can't wait for everything to be back to normal and start traveling again. And traveling with Shailaja, it's a really good, nice experience. And she's, as in, uh, we are one of a kind. We love traveling together, and I'm already hoping that we can go on some trip together soon.
Yeah, it's always good to have a compatible travel partner.
Yeah, that really that makes all of the difference.
Yeah, yeah. And it's difficult certainly for travelers to face these times when they are not able to travel. But even people like me, like I don't travel much, but still, because it has been so long, somehow that urge to just go out and spend
Seriously.
some days outside is there.
Yeah, earlier we were always looking for long weekends and clubbing holidays, and my whole year used to be planned by March or so, all the holidays. But this year it's completely different. So many tickets were cancelled, and seriously, we still don't know when we'll be able to travel now.
Yeah, but we will be having these travel series webinars, and like today, Shalja took us on a journey across India to different places.
Yeah,
Next Sunday, we are going to have a published author, Dhruv Bogra, who has traveled, I think, all across the world. And the talk that he is going to give, that will be like from on his travel from the Andes to the Arctic. So the editor who actually edited that book, he is also there, Jyotirmoy. So I would like him to maybe tell us something about that journey.
that would be quite interesting.
Just give us a teaser. Jyotirmoy, can you
Yeah,
please?
I'm just logging in, sort of. Yeah. So yeah. So see, this is Dhruv. Basically, traveled. He's a adventure cyclist. So this was a solo cycling trip, which started somewhere in Canada, and then he went through the US, then Mexico, then some other countries in South America, and finally ended up in Peru. And I think he had to, if I remember right, he finished in Peru because his money ran out, because he had a longer plan. So he even finished his provident fund and stuff like that. But it's fascinating when, see, I have myself not traveled very much, but reading his book, I spent about 7 or 8 months working on the book, and it was his diary which was kind of turned into the book. And there are a lot of photographs in the book. And he went with us for a self-publishing venture, because he was afraid there'll be cuts in a regular traditional publisher. So he had it's quite a fat book, but it's beautiful and it's very well organized. And one of the things for me, it was a spiritual experience actually. Once, it was almost like I was traveling with him slowly, and there are certain parts where there are long stretches and he's absolutely alone, except meeting an occasional cyclist or somebody, especially in the Canadian part of it. South America was crowded, a lot of sections, but Canada was absolutely, it was like open territory. It's fascinating. And what should I say? Matlab, for people like us who are, I'm a kind of land lover just sitting at my desk, it was incredible. And some of the photographs he took, he actually lost photographs also in the sense, but even then, there was plenty which he had put on the cloud. And so that's the general stuff about his thing. And I think it's best let him tell you more. And
Yeah,
he has his website also, where there are lots of photographs. So now, if you just Google Dhruv Bogra, you will get quite a bit on him.
Okay, Jyotirmoy. And the name of his book is Grit, Gravel, and Determination. Am I correct?
Yeah. I'll just give you the link. Just a second.
He actually wrote one more book during the lockdown, which is titled Away.
Yes. And that is a small book which basically during the lockdown. He has been, after this American trip, now he's gone back to work, but he keeps going off for this, in the Pahadi areas. Basically, I think it's Uttarakhand and Himachal primarily, short solo trips to keep his practice, because he once told me he has a dream to go cycling in Serbia. Now I don't know that's going to sorry, Siberia, not Serbia, Siberia. Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know whether that's going to happen, but so anyway, let me send you the link here. Just a second.
But I think after his talk, maybe he will not need to go solo. You can accompany him, and maybe some
it's an endurance test, and this is a personal thing I'm saying. When I work with him, it's fascinating. Months and months of that kind of travel makes you such a lean, almost a monastic human being. And this was my feeling when I used to interact with him personally. Very relaxed sort of chap. For a chap who's kind of a corporate guy, senior corporate guy, essentially the busy guy, and the impression one has is these are all sharks. He is an incredible fellow. But
Okay, so
yeah,
we look forward to having him next Saturday. And participants, if you have any questions for Shailaja, I would request her to maybe come on video.
Yeah, Vivek, I'm like starting my video. Are you all able to see me?
Yes, yes, yes. So thanks for kick-starting this new series, and I hope everyone enjoyed it.
oh yeah.
So we are now looking forward to any questions or any suggestions or any sharing that anyone wants to do.
Hi Shailaja, Suchira Nandipurkastha here. Am
Yeah,
I audible?
hi.
Hi,
Yes,
so
yes.
great photos and nice to see you so well traveled. So that's really an ideal to look forward to. I just wanted to know, do you travel solo or do you travel with your friends at all
Yeah.
times?
Everything. I travel solo, I travel with friends, then I travel with my family. So just as Akanksha like put her travel calendar before you all, my calendar my travel calendar is mostly I will take one solo trip a year, one trip with family, and as many as possible with friends and other things. So this is my usual configuration. So it's a combination of
So
all.
being a female traveler, how do you ensure the safety, like whatever is happening in
Yeah,
India?
yeah.
So
Safety is like a foremost. So I have to like first take care of all sorts of safety things, how safe the place is. There's a lot of research that goes into it. While I presented everything like in this manner, there are a lot of times when we have to research a lot about, and safety being the foremost factor, and then having certain backups, whether you know somebody in that place, so in case of an emergency, what do you do and all. And off late I've been like I'm a big fan of homestays. So off late, all my travel is like I do stay in a hotel or a guest house or anything. Wherever possible, I prefer to stay in a homestay. So that usually offers a lot of comfort and safety also. And with Airbnb and these kind of things, you really get to know whether the place is safe and all. You can really take information, and that really helps.
have you ever traveled to any place where language was
Yeah,
ineligible for you, like you didn't understand
yeah.
the language of that place? Like you have traveled to Dauki and Shillong, Meghalaya. So Dauki people, they don't understand Hindi too well, or they might not be able to speak
No,
Hindi
but
well.
they do speak, a smattering of Hindi and all, and they most of them are very good with English
Yeah,
because in the
Meghalaya is
northeast,
the pop rock
yeah,
capital of India.
yes, yes,
So
exactly.
English is like spoken quite well
Yeah,
in
so
Meghalaya.
you can manage. So the thing that I tell everyone is in India, if you know, you can travel anywhere in India if you know Hindi and Tamil.
Hmm.
Because when you go down south to Tamil
Yeah.
Nadu and all, of course they also manage with a smattering of English and all that.
Hmm.
But it's good to know Tamil when you are speaking to very remote, locals and all that. So that kind of helps. I don't speak Tamil, but I understand a bit. I lived in Chennai for about 2 years. I picked up like a few things and also I can kind of manage.
Mm.
So there are places, there were other places even abroad. I went to Germany once. That was an official assignment,
Mm.
but that was the first time I traveled to a non-English speaking country, and it was difficult, but it was fun.
Okay. So nice to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Welcome.
I do hope some of your future travel programs will feature some ICF members also. They are all over. They are all over India and outside India also.
Yeah, I hope to do that, and that's a good way to catch up.
Yeah, because when we tell them that okay, we are going to be in that particular place, so you might get a chance to meet editors from that place.
Yes, yeah, right.
So tomorrow, like we will have our regular Sunday webinar at 11, which we have been having since the 10th of May. And this time the subject is Indian English. That would be something that even people who travel a lot would be interested in, how it changes in different regions of India and what is spoken more in which place. And we are going to have editors from other countries also. A lot of people from Australia have registered for the webinar, plus people from UK, US, Poland, Argentina, Canada, and of course, the maximum are going to be from India. So that's going to be a great session, and it's going to be a multi-speaker session. So we are going to have 6 sessions where 6 speakers will present their take on Indian English, like they will discuss different aspects of Indian English. So I really look forward to seeing all of you there tomorrow. And we will end this unless anyone has any question or query or some thought to share. But I hope everyone liked this, like it was a break from our regular stuff or regular routine that we have been doing.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Manoj.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed preparing for this presentation. So thank you all. Thank you everyone for joining. And I've read through, I've gone through all the comments, and
There
it
is
really
there is
was very
yeah, there is one comment from Jasminder. She's asking, why do you travel solo?
Why do I travel solo? Okay, it's a practical thing, Jaspinder. When I try to, coordinate with friends, family, everyone has a different schedule, and I tend to miss out on a lot of places. It's good to visit one place during a season and all. So you'll have to wait for a year if that doesn't happen in many years. So that's when I started to take, the stand. I took a stand and I said, okay, let me also travel solo as long as it's safe and I can take care of myself and I don't have to worry my family, my parents, and everything. So it's a very nice thing, Jaswinder, because you are on your own and you really first thing you enjoy it a lot. Second, I mean, it's a very different experience. I can't even like encapsulate it in like a few words and all. But this is something everyone should do, even if it is for a day. Everyone should go on a solo travel, not because you want to run away from something or escape something, but genuinely to realize certain things, and you're on your own. You realize so many things about yourself. Your self-worth, everything all comes back to you. So it's very encouraging. So that's the reason I travel solo, not to like run away from something or someone.
Okay, Jyotirmoy, the travel editor, he is asking you whether you are writing your
Hmm.
experiences.
Yeah, I try to write my experiences. In fact, I have a blog, which is now like I have to revive that blog. I thank you so much. If ICF can publish my stories, I definitely get in touch with you. This has been a serious venture. I'll be trying to do it, but also putting it off because sometimes when you have to balance work and all these things, it can get a little challenging. So I have one book in my head for like I think 4 years now, and it's just not materializing. So, Jyotirmai, I thank you so much. I'm definitely going to get in touch with you in the next couple of days, actually. Thank you.
And do share the name of your blog in the chat box,
Sure.
or maybe if you can just tell us the name, we will just find it out.
Right now, you won't find it, Vivek, because I'm trying to revive it. It was a paid blog, and there was some problem with it, and I had to. It got like it shut itself off. I'll have to do some, backbreaking
Okay.
work to revive it. But
Okay.
definitely, when it's ready, I will share it. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. All the best for the book and for the blog, and thanks a lot for today's presentation.
It was
And
my pleasure also.
thanks everyone for joining us. See you all tomorrow at 11.